I'm reading from the Bhagavad-gita as it is, chapter 6, Sankhya Yoga, text 26. So everyone who needs translation, are you translating? Okay. Oh, you're translating. So everyone has these, you have these microphones. Do you understand English?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. Everyone else who doesn't understand English? Okay. Yato nischalati manaschanchalam astiram tatastato niyam yaitat atmanyeva vasham nayat yato nischalati manaschanchalam astiram tatastato niyam yaitat atmanyeva vasham nayat yato nischalati manaschanchalam astiram tatastato niyam yaitat atmanyeva vasham nayat. Nishati Manaschanchalam astiram tatastato niyam yaitat atmanyeva vasham nayat yato nischalati manaschanchalam astiram tastatam nayam yaitat atmanyeva vasham nayat. Ladies, yato nischalati anaschanchalam astiram tatastato nayam yaitat atmanyeva vasham nayat. Yata, wherever nischalati becomes verily agitated. Manaha, the mind. Chanchalam, flickering. Astiram, unsteady. Tata, from there. Niyamya, regulating. Etat, this. Atmani, in the self. Eva, certainly. Vasham, control. Nayat, must bring under. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Purport. The nature of the mind is flickering and unsteady, but a self-realized yogi has to control the mind, and the mind should not control him. One who controls the mind, and therefore the senses as well, is called Goswami or Swami. And one who is controlled by the mind is called Godas, or the servant of the senses. A Goswami knows the standard of sense happiness. In transcendental sense happiness, the senses are engaged in the service of Rishikesh, or the supreme owner of the senses, Krishna. Serving Krishna with purified senses is called Krishna consciousness. That is the way of bringing the senses under full control. What is more, that is the highest perfection of yoga practice. Wherever the mind wanders to due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Askatyade Siddharane. There are two possibilities of the mind. Either the mind is engaged in thoughts of sense gratification, or the mind is engaged in thoughts of Krishna consciousness. That's our free will to choose. Now, when it uses the word control, generally we think of some kind of contest. In one sense, there is some contest, but it's a little subtle contest. And to control the mind means to fix it in Krishna consciousness. But that has different stages. The first stage is to understand things properly. That's called Sambandha Gyan. In other words, unless we understand who we are, how the material nature works, who Krishna is, unless we understand the basic principles, namely Ishvara, who's the supreme controller of everything. Then there's Jiva, ourselves, the souls. There's Prakriti, the material nature. There's Kala, called time, that's changing everything. And then there's Prakriti, the material nature. Now, one who doesn't understand about the soul, one who cannot differentiate between the spiritual soul and the material nature, there's no question of controlling anything, because one is completely under control of the material nature. And what are the symptoms of one who's under the control of the material nature? Well, Krishna just summarized it that right now we're an illusion. For instance, this is Krishna's first instruction in the Bhagavad-gita, that our bodies are changing, but we ourselves are not changing. Now, if we understand that that's a fact, and the question is, can anyone really believe that it's not a fact? Does anyone really think that the material nature is changing and we're changing with it? That we have a completely different identity than when we were 5 years old? If we remember how crazy we were when we were 5 years old, and we're probably still as crazy now, so there must be some continuity between the two. In other words, we're eternal even in this body. The body hasn't changed us at all. Of course, our personalities have changed, hopefully. Generally, when we're 5 years old, we have a different personality, although with the experiencer of that personality. And as we grow older, our personality is supposed to develop. And then when we're around 80 or 90 years old, we go back to a 5-year-old personality again. But still with the same person. With a different body, with a different perspective on life, with a different personality, way of dealing with things. Now, if we don't understand that, if we don't even understand it, what to speak if we're not even presented with that idea, then we must be under the control of illusion. We're already under the control of illusion, but at least with some intelligence we can understand that we're under the control of illusion. So then we can make some progress to get out of illusion. Now the next step is that not we're only eternal, but we have an opportunity to use our intelligence, I should say our free will. We have use our free will to get out of this material conception of life or to get deeper into it. For instance, now we have the human form of life and we're listening to the Bhagavad-gita. Usually there's always a few ants crawling here, and they're also attending the class. But most of them are not really listening very attentively. Because they couldn't care less. If we were talking about Bhagavad-gita, we were talking about Mickey Mouse. It's all the same to them. Because they're completely absorbed in the Bali concept of life. There's no possibility of telling an ant that today is Ekadasi and you should not eat any grains. Or that you should practice some renunciation. You know, you've been eating too much sugar lately, you've become so intoxicated that you're spending the whole day just running around in a circle. So you should try to control your senses, stop eating so much sugar. It's bad for your teeth too, if you have any. But an ant's not going to follow austerity. It's not cultivating knowledge. It has no ability, what to speak of an interest. It has no opportunity. But in the human form of life, we have that. But if we get more in the mode of ignorance, get more covered by illusion, then there's less and less of a chance of our appreciating the fact that our bodies are changing, but we're not changing. So then the next question is, what do we do to get out of the bodily concept of life? So therefore Krishna speaks the Bhagavad-gita and he gives us a progression. There is the indirect way of getting out of the bodily concept of life, and there is a more direct way, or the direct way. The most direct way is to come to our original platform. In other words, to become aware of Krishna again. Because if we become aware of Krishna, then it says, just like the sun lights up everything in the daytime, so when the sun comes up, everything is seen properly. And when the sun is not there, everything is dark, and we have so many ideas. We can light so many candles, or hopefully put on, but still there's a lot of darkness. So there is different processes. So basically speaking from the point of view of Krishna consciousness, which is the point of view that Prabhupada has written the Bhagavad-gita, our first reason why we're in illusion is that we think we're the owners. Not only we think we're this body, but we think that everything in relation to this body is mine. Now most people think that's innocent enough. The only problem is that if there is a God, an actual person who's the owner of everything, then our idea that these things belong to me and I don't have to use them according to how Krishna wants me to do, that's called stealing from Krishna. The problem with stealing from Krishna is that he has the police force, the same police force who's arrested us because we've been put into a jail. Of course, we love our jails. Matter of fact, we think our jail is the most beautiful jail in the whole universe. That's why we put it on Facebook and try and get likes, see if we can have the most beautiful jail in the whole Facebook community. But this is our prison. After all, if we are spirit souls, that means we're eternal. And unfortunately, this body keeps on doing things we don't want it to do. We can talk to it, we can plead with it, we can bargain with it, we can take our vitamin pills and do our exercises and everything else, but it still doesn't do what we want it to do. It keeps on growing old, it becomes diseased, and there's even rumors that even in Slovenia, believe it or not, people sometimes die. They have to leave their body. Now, we never asked the body to do that. Matter of fact, we can ask it not to do it, but it doesn't seem to listen to us. It doesn't matter what we tell it. Please stop growing older. Just for a few years, stop growing older. What can I do to convince you shouldn't grow older? But it doesn't listen to us. But we're listening to it all the time. It says, go to sleep. And I said, I don't want to go to sleep. It says, no, you got to go to sleep. And I don't want to go to sleep. And then we wind up asleep anyhow. Whether we want to or not, eventually we go to sleep. Or some people want to go to sleep, and the body says, I'm not going to sleep. And then we stay awake all night. And we plead, please let me go to sleep. Sorry. We're not going to let you go to sleep. Similarly, so many other things we're forced to do because the body tells us to do it. If it's time to answer the call of nature, we say, sorry, I'm not going to do it for a couple of days. After a while, the body doesn't listen to us. So the body doesn't listen to us, but we're forced to listen to the body, one way or the other. And yet we think we're the controllers here. Now, when we do something the body doesn't necessarily want us to do, like for instance, if there's a fast day and we're only asked to eat no grains and no whatever else we're not supposed to eat, especially no grains. No, the body says, I'm hungry, I want to eat grains. We say, sorry, not today. And even if we hear this grumbling in our stomach, rumble, 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 and we say, well, I got to serve it. It's too much. This is too much. Well, that's all right. Then we eat some fruit or something. And the stomach says, okay, we compromised. You listen to me, and I'm listening to you. I won't bother you today. So we have the opportunity to do something that the body doesn't want us to do, or demanding that we do something. We can ignore it. It's not very happy for a while, but after a while, it surrenders, and realizes that we actually have some control. Growing old, or becoming diseased, or maybe dying. Of course, disease, we may minimize that. We may minimize the amount of time before we grow old by our activities. The more in the mode of goodness, the more clean we are, the more regulated we are, then we'll probably live a little bit longer. But we can't stop dying. We can stop disease to some extent by not overeating or oversleeping, etc. But we can't stop from becoming diseased. Just like we look here, everyone has a different posture. Most of us are leaning more towards the floor than towards upright. So that's called because we're not at ease. The body's not comfortable. Therefore, the whole yoga process nowadays, which is so glorified, is just exercising for so many hours, just so you can sit down and not feel like you're going to crumple over in 5 minutes. That's the whole idea. Exercise for 3 hours so you can sit for 15 minutes. And above that is to know what the purpose of life is. In other words, unless we know what the goal of life, nothing makes any sense in terms, if we think I'm a spirit soul, so what's the goal of life for the soul? There are many impersonalists, spiritualists, who believe that the goal of life as spirit souls, because they can understand this simple philosophy that I'm not the body. It doesn't take an atomic scientist to figure it out. Matter of fact, it's much more likely a 5-year-old boy could figure it out than an atomic scientist. Because the atomic scientist doesn't have so many crazy things in his head. But a 5-year-old boy is open. Yeah, my body's changing, but I'm not changing. So a person who knows that they're not their body, then the next question, what is the goal of life? What am I trying to accomplish? If I actually believe I'm eternal. So the point is that generally people come up with the idea that you're eternal and that you're in a body and that you should try to get out of the body and you can become one with all the other souls somewhere. Not very appealing, but anyhow, that's put it forward as one of the goals. It's actually not so bad, but it's not very good either. So most people think, yeah, I'm not this body, so what? And they go on merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream. That's an American song. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. You've heard that before? Life is but a dream. So they think life is a dream. Let me enjoy the dream. Well, I can. So that's usually the conclusion. Even the people who understand we're not the body, they can't at all figure out any other goal and just try to enjoy while you can. Or as Prabhupada once was giving a class at a university, and one of the students raised their hand and said, Swamiji, you say that if I act like a dog, I'm going to become a dog. Reincarnation. So the lady said, the student said, I don't mind if I become a dog. As a matter of fact, I want to become a dog. Because, dog's life nowadays, if you get a good master, you're doing much better than most people are doing. To get a degree at the university, to get a job. The food is usually pretty good and it's free. You don't have to pay for rent. You just have to go, rawr, and everything's, you've done your job for the day. You learn that from your mother in, the first month practically. So a dog's life is usually better. So she said, I don't mind if I become a dog. I want to become a dog. So Prabhupada raised his hand and said, you have my blessings. Now to think that there's some other higher goal of life than, just whatever happens and just go along with it, whatever is kind of, go with the flow, whatever it is. Then that requires some intelligence. And from our point of view, the basic intelligence is not present within modern society. The basic culture, we'd say. We're not being brought up in any culture that has any goal based upon the eternality of the soul. And what to speak, even people who are religious, so-called religious, and claim that they believe that they worship God, but they don't know who God is. Because they say He's Jesus, but their conception of Jesus, some of them say it's Jesus, is not exactly, you can do something practical, except for you can go on sinning, and then you just charge whatever sins you've done to Jesus, the Jesus Christ credit card. You pick it up at church. You do sins, and you charge all of them to Jesus Christ, and He pays the bill. But that's not the highest point of religion. It's not transcendental, it's not spiritual. It doesn't really address the fact that we're eternal. We're supposed to get out of our material concept of life. Therefore, from the concept of life, that God is a person, and He's the goal of life, He's the most beautiful person, He has all beauty, He has all strength, He has all knowledge, He has all fame, and He has a relationship, eternal relationship, with every living entity. A very personal relationship, which is full of bliss and full of knowledge, that He loves everyone. He's concerned with everyone, and He doesn't want to see everyone suffering in the material world. He wants to give the information by which we make progress out of our material concept of life. And not only that, but He's in everyone's heart, guiding us as a super soul, reminding us of what to do in order to get out of the material concept of life, either by following a regulated life, or cultivating knowledge, or meditation, or the most easy way, but the most unknown way, is by devotion to Krishna. In other words, Prabhupada gives the example that if the material world belongs to Krishna, then, and everything in it and everyone in it belongs to Krishna, then the example is used just like a man is walking down the street and he sees a $100 bill, or 100 euros here. $100 bill is not worth very much anymore, but 100 euros. Now, he may pick it up, look both ways and make sure no one's looking, and then put it in his pocket. So he's not very honest. Now, another person may walk down the street and he think, well, there's a $100 bill, it's not mine, I better not pick it up, someone may see it and call the police. So he just leaves it there and walks by. See, he's not dishonest, but he's not very intelligent. Now, the most intelligent person sees a 100 euro bill and he thinks this belongs to Krishna. So he picks it, or it belongs to someone, so he may pick it up and give it to the police or something, or try and find the owner. So he's both intelligent and he's honest. So similarly, in this material world, there's a class of people, which is the majority, who just, there's no owner. It's like you walk into a department store when it just opens. And there's no one, you can't find anyone working there. So you think the whole store is empty, so maybe there's no one who owns it. So they just start putting things in their shopping cart and just walk out the store because there's no one there, so it must be up for grabs. There's no owner. Until if the police catch you, of course, I guess here if the police catch you, they do something. And then you find out there's an owner, you get arrested. But if you make it out of the store and the police are still looking for you, then you may conclude that actually I got away with it until they catch up with you. On the other hand, people may go into the store and they think, well, I don't know who owns everything here. I better not take anything because I might get caught. On the other hand, people may take things, put them in the shopping cart, and pay for them to the actual owner. So similarly in the material world, if we have the conception everything here is up for grabs, we just take whatever we want, no appreciation, no recognition for the owner, and we think we're going to get away with it. But we don't get away with it. And what's the proof? Just look in the mirror, you can see the proof. We've been arrested by the illusory energy. And we're being tortured by the material body to different degrees. What's that torture? The body keeps on growing old. And if you're not 70 years old, you may not know what I'm talking about. You may think you're enjoying. Or 60 years old, or nowadays 50, or maybe 40. And we're becoming diseased. Everyone's diseased. Nowadays, 13-year-old children are getting heart attacks. So, in America at least, on the average, I forget, every day the average person takes around 30 different medicines. 30 different, not just, supplements, but actual pharmaceutical medicines. Because they must have some problem. And death. Now, when Srila Prabhupada was in India, came to London, as I said before, and the reporters were asking Srila Prabhupada, why in India there are so many people dying? And so many people are growing old in India and getting diseased. Why don't they do something about it in India? So Prabhupada said it's a fact. I've been to India. A lot of people grow old and they die in India. But I've been here in London for some time. I've noticed here that everyone here is also growing old and dying. As a matter of fact, in India, the death rate is 100%. And in London, although you've made so much scientific advancement, it appears that the death rate here is also the same, 100%. So there's no progress in terms of that. We can forget it, we can deny it, but ultimately, everyone is, if we don't recognize the Supreme Person and we're put into illusion by His energy, then the result is we're subject to the miseries of material life. We may try to mitigate them, we may try to deny them, just like a rabbit. When a rabbit is being attacked by a big animal, its defense, it can't defend itself, so it closes its eyes and says, it's not there, it's not there. Unfortunately, the rabbit's meditation is not very effective, as they'll soon find out. Or the other one is the ostrich. It has this huge body, and this long neck, and little head. And when it's being attacked by a big animal, it finds a hole and puts its little head into the hole, and thinks, now I'm safe. Unfortunately, his big body is still outside. And that's what's going to get attacked. So that's our state. We look around, everyone's going through old age, disease, and death, and having to take birth again. And how do we know things are taking birth again? Just look outside. There's trees growing, getting born, there's babies getting born, there's animals being born. Everyone's taking birth. Where did it come from? Where do these souls come from? Where the soul goes when it leaves its body? It goes into some other body. Of course, when people go to these hypnotists, or they do or they look at their astrology chart, how many astrologers say that in your past lifetime you were a frog? They generally don't say that. Or else they'd lose a lot of clients. You were a princess, or you're a king, or no one says you were a cow in your last lifetime, or you were a monkey. But where do the monkeys come from? Where do the cows come from? Where all the grass come from, with all these souls in them? They must have come from somewhere. So the point is, we can't explain everything about Bhagavad-gita, but as far as fixing the mind, controlling the mind means to find out something we can do in order to get out of the Bali concept of life. So that's our struggle. And if we don't do that, then our minds will tell us what to do. And generally what tells us what to do, we get into more in the Bali concept of life, get more deeply absorbed in our misconception. So that's the difference between voluntarily taking shelter of Krishna and his instructions and getting out of the Bali concept of life, or just letting our senses, mind guide us and getting more absorbed in the Bali concept of life. Believing that this is reality, that I am the body, everyone is their body, this world belongs to us, that's the purpose of life, this is just enjoy here, die. And some people believe you go to some heaven where there's you're living on a cloud and God gives you this little flute to play and you go beep beep, or this little horn. God is great. Or he gives you a harp and goes, I love God, I love God. So, some people believe like that. Others believe you just disappear, poof. Soul survived so long in the body, didn't matter what happened, but suddenly it left the body and went, oh my God, I'm not in the body, and went poof and disappeared. And some people might believe, you leave the body and there's a light, you emerge into the light, and it's like you spend the rest of your eternity watching a blank screen. We don't believe that though, by the way. Therefore, we have a description of who God is and what the goal is, etc., and how to get there. It's all very nicely laid out. And if we don't understand anything, which most of us don't understand very much, then we can just chant Hare Krišna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And that's not so easy either, but it's easier because it's not so easy to actually chant Hare Krišna, which means, my dear Lord, please engage me in your loving service. So first of all, we may not really have that much faith in Krishna. And what to speak, what does loving service mean? What is this? What is this? We don't know what this whole thing's about. Therefore, we chant Hare Krišna. We don't really know what to expect, except that if I think about how I chanted yesterday, there's not very much to expect. Therefore, we wonder, so much philosophy, so much this and that, and then just say, chant Hare Krišna. I've been chanting Hare Krišna. But it's not so easy to chant Hare Krišna either, to actually believe, to actually come to the conviction that I should actually control my mind and senses and use them in Krishna's service. That actually takes some time to get some experience like that. Although we can see if we don't do that, we overeat and we get sick. That's about our level. That's usually our level of realization, how to control the mind and senses, at least in the beginning. Or if we oversleep, we wake up, I slept 20 hours and now I wake up all groggy and I thought I was going to be refreshed, but now I want to go back to sleep. Go back. 4 more hours left in the day, I don't want to misuse it. Go back to sleep. But that's some realization too, if we decide to regulate our senses a little bit. I mean, that's a big difference. We avoid so much problems. But higher than that is to actually hear the philosophy, actually come to the conception that actually things might belong to Krishna. Maybe I should try out using things in his service a little bit more and following Prabhupada's example and instructions how to do that, etc., etc. And then some experience will be there, some realizations will be there, and things will become a little simpler and easier. So I'll stop there and thank you. Any questions or comments?
This is the Sabda Brahman.
Oh, it's actually I was going to bring the our GBC. What we did I was in Italy recently for 2 meetings. Our RGB, the Regional Governing Body meeting, and ELM, which is the European Leadership meeting, and I was there for the GBC meeting. One was in Village Hare Krišna. The first one was in Villa Vrindavan, the other one was in Village Hare Krišna. And we discussed, generally people don't know anything about what the leaders are doing, except if they come to the program, at least you know they come to the program. But it was actually quite good meetings, especially the GBC meeting. We discussed things, how to have better meetings, how to have better leadership, discuss some of our issues we have in India, how to, so I presented some of the issues we have with our initiating gurus. But it was very nicely organized, and I should have brought the papers. We had 5 days, and we had all the meetings, the topics, but they were Krishna conscious. If you like Italian prasadam, then become a GBC and go to Italy. For me, it was a little austere because the Italians seem to like 3 things. 2 things in particular. They like eggplant, and they like tomatoes, and pasta. So if you like eggplant, tomatoes, and pasta, that's the place to go. And if you're GBC, they give it to you for free. I mean, I think the prasadam was nice, but I couldn't eat it. So. In any case, it was very nice. The devotees in Italy are really kind, very warm-hearted devotees. They did a lot of service. I think they're probably still recovering from it. There's like 30 devotees and 30 devotees to serve, so it was quite a bit of endeavor for them. Anyhow, maybe next time when I come back, but that's 5 months from now. We'll have another meeting. This time, by the time I come back, we'll have our regular meeting, so I'll be able to report on that. All right, anything else? So thank you very much. I'll look forward to seeing you. I'll be back in Krishna willing in 5 months from now. Is that? Krishna willing, that is. It always goes very quickly. I mean, I've been here for like 15, 20 years, and it's just like I just got here. So 5 months is not very much. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Bhagavad-gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Haribol.
Dokazno gradivo od dejala pa sladoled. A to, ne, sem se sprašal, ja. Ti imaš nekaj. Introdukcione. Italijano. Naslov. Zavajal, kaj podega. Naslov? Če vsi grejo, ne? Vsi so šumali. Lila šuka gre, niko ne. Kdaj gre pa lila šuka? Čez en mesec. Sem rekel, jaz ne greš v Indijo. Sem rekel, Saša, pa da grejo v Indijo za kartike. Še nisem bil jaz ravno nikoga za prvič. A gre Saško? Ja, nekaj je govoril, sem ne vem, zdaj pa tiho. Spomlad je govoril, da bo šel. Kaj bi mu dala za naslov? Dol Čandrije.